Well, that sucked. No way around it. Also, if you can't tell, I am not home right now. This is a very different background than you usually see because I'm not usually in a kid's bedroom, but that's where I am now. But Florida Gators lost to the LSU Tigers, and if you haven't been here for a post game recap, a postcast, as we like to call it, first half is going to be kind of instant reaction. Second half will be strictly, what the listeners are saying, what the chat is saying. If there's anything to really be said, um, one thing you can say is to check out the Locked On Gators Discord, which is in the link right below this. And look, 45-35, there's no way around it. The Florida Gators defense absolutely sucked in this game. There's no way to get by it. I said it this week. I was like, look, Jayden Daniels is a bad quarterback. That is the truth. That is a fact. He is bad. Florida made him look like a Heisman candidate. That's just unacceptable. For people joining, just know whatever you say, we'll get to in the second half of this bonus episode, this postcast. We'll get to it in the second half in about 10 minutes, we'll say. Probably going to go with this for about 15 to 20 minutes. But yeah, I mean, there's just no way around it. Jayden Daniels looked really, really good tonight. And don't get me wrong, he threw the ball more accurately and more aggressively than we've seen him throw all season, last season at Arizona State, and the 2 seasons before that he was a starter in Arizona State. He threw the ball more aggressively than he ever has. And he threw the ball more accurately than he usually does. But also make no mistake, there is no excuse for what the defense allowed him to do consistently. Kayshon Boutte, he was quiet for most of this year. And he looked like the Biletnikoff candidate that he was going into this year. 6 catches, 115 yards, no touchdowns, but 6 catches, 115 yards. And he looked really good. Running the ball, Florida continues to be. I think there's no other way to say it than say the Florida's defense, they're soft. Up front, the Florida Gators defense is soft. That's it. There's no way around it. You can talk about whatever you want to talk about talent-wise. They don't got it in their hearts. It's a simple thing. You can be bad and be physical. Florida's defensive front just gets pushed around. Gervon Dexter is a guy that for a year or so has been touted as future first round pick, future All American candidate, future All SEC candidate. He's getting pushed 5 yards downfield by LSU's crappy offensive line. There's no way around it. They're playing soft. That's the only way you can describe it. When you look at the back end and you look at the secondary and you look at, by the way, I need Gators fans to hear this because I feel like Florida fans, you hear something or a media member says something or anybody with any credibility says something, and Florida Gators fans just latch onto it and never let it go. But I really think that you need to hear this. Jason Marshall Jr. is just not as good as Florida Gators fans want him to be. And that's fine. He's still good. That interception that got called back was a fantastic play on the ball. Jason Marshall is good. He is not the clamp lockdown corner that Florida Gators fans so desperately want him to be. He's just not. And that's okay. Like, you don't have to be. But I just want Gators fans to realize, like, you don't have to say he's a lockdown, he's a shutdown, because he's simply not. He's just not. He's not. Jaden Hill, I have a very difficult time faulting Jaden Hill because I don't think Jaden Hill is ready to be the starter yet. Not that I'm saying he's mentally not there. Physically, his knee is not what it was in 2020 when he was playing a bit, and it's just not there yet. I think it will be eventually, but right now, and I can tell you this, and I said this in the Locked On Gators Discord, which again, the link is in the description. I've said this. Jaden Hill, His knee's not ready, where man coverage is an issue for him right now. That's why when he's on the field, Florida plays so much zone, and they played man, and he got toasted because his knee's not ready. It's as simple as that. His knee is not ready to go through the wear and tear and the torque and the changing direction that you need to be in order to play man coverage. It's as simple as that. I don't want to seem like I'm bashing the kid because I think that's on the coaching staff. I think you're putting a kid there who's not ready because you like him and you know what he can be, and he's just not ready to do it yet. Again, physically, I think mentally he could do it. I think Jaden Hill has fantastic eyes in coverage. And that's great that he's able to capitalize there when he's in the zone, but having him on the field limits you from playing man or zone and switching around. Also, I will say that against Jayden Daniels, you should be playing zone a lot. If you listen to Friday's show, the second segment, yesterday's show, the second segment was all about how do you defend Jayden Daniels? Do you blitz the heck out of him? Do you sit in zone and just watch him and keep your eyes on him? Do you just have a spy and call whatever defense you're going to do? Jayden Daniels had 3 rushing touchdowns, but he had 44 yards. We'll see what it is when you deduct sacks from it. But he was relatively contained as a scrambler. That is something where Jayden Daniels has carved up pretty much every defense this season with running the football. He's done that consistently. He had 38 against Tennessee, which included sacks, 59 against Auburn, which included sacks. He had 37 against New Mexico. That's because it was a blowout. He didn't play the full time. He's a scrambler. That's what he is. He's very good at running the football. He's not good at throwing the football, and Florida just let him consistently do that. And it was horrible. It was disgusting football. There's no other way around it. When you look at Florida's offense, I struggle to fault them as well because it's very difficult for me to see the Florida Gators offense put up 21 early on. Yes, they sputtered after that, but it's very difficult for me to see the Florida Gators offense put up 21 early on, finish with 35, finish with, I believe it was over 400 yards or at 400 yards. I believe it was 389 before the final drive. And we'll ignore the final drive play calling wise because that's final drive. The defense that LSU was playing is just don't get beat deep. And then that's their goal. Anthony Richardson, 81-yard rushing touchdown. He was way more aggressive running the football, which you love to see. Offensive line just wasn't as dominant as they should have been for the day. As receivers, Justin Shorter, I honestly feel like at certain points you just have to say, just call up a shot play and throw it deep to Justin Shorter. He wins against coverage often, and he wins those contested catch battles. I don't know why you wouldn't just do that for him. Xavier Henderson, wide receiver screens, finally worked for the first time ever. Lorenzo Lingard got involved. Naquan Wright did not have a touch of the football. Not one. I'm not saying that's good or bad. I know that everybody's kind of wishy-washy on him, but that's what it is there. Pretty Ricky needs to get involved more. Tight ends just weren't involved much at all today, and they weren't effective as blockers when they were involved. Pass rush, the thing that really frustrates me is that even when LSU was converting pretty consistently on offense early on, the pass rush was also pretty consistently getting home. Brenton Cox Jr. started off the game like a man possessed. He was living in the backfield. He was consistently in the backfield. But then you look at coverage issues again, and that's what kept killing the Florida Gators. Whether it was Trey Dean, Trevez Johnson, Jason Marshall, Jaden Hill, Avery Helm got beat. It was pretty much everybody. Devin Moore got beat. Jalen Kimber got beat. It was pretty much everybody just got beat at certain points. And it's like, at what point do you just look at this defense and say, they're just not that good? It's as simple as that. This Florida Gators defense is just not as good as you would want them to be. They're not as good as they should be. And they're not as good as their rankings would suggest they are. And that sucks. But at the same time, that's the reality of the situation that we're living in with this Florida Gators defense. They're just not as good as we were hoping they'd be. They're not as good as we were expecting them to be. And I've said this before, I'm so torn when talking about this defense because or even offense too. Do you how do you fault the coaches at a certain point? To an extent, you can, but also the execution is not there on either side of the ball. And I'll say this offensively, I think that the execution is there from most players. The defense, there's execution errors throughout, and it's incessant, and it's toxic, and it's cancerous, and it's horrible. Offensively, most of the guys produce, aside from really Anthony Richardson's the main guy who doesn't produce enough. Xavier Henderson's put in bad spots consistently, and he makes the most of those situations that he shouldn't be putting with the wide receiver screens and the swings. He shouldn't be put in those spots. He's not good at them. But that we could fault the coaches on. So I think it's very difficult where you say Patrick Toney. I know people are calling him third and Toney. They're saying whatever because there's consistent coverage breakdowns and there's consistent first downs on these 3rd and 8 or longers. But again, at a certain point, you have to say, is the talent there? Because that's the big issue as well. Pass rush doesn't hit home consistently enough. The back 7 aren't consistent enough in coverage. If it's not Trey Dean messing up, it's Travis Johnson. If it's not Travis Johnson, it's Jason Marshall. If it's not Jason Marshall, it's Jaden Hill. If it's not Jaden Hill, it's Rashad Torrance. If it's not Rashad Torrance, it's Amari Burney. And there's just every time you see a defensive breakdown or a big gain on the defense, it's not often that it's because of the scheme. And I realize that, yes, I am a big Patrick Toney fan. I love what he does with this defense. But it's also just execution at certain points. A lot of the time against Missouri, it was just Florida playing cover 3, and they would consistently screw it up. And then Gators fans like, oh, 3rd and Toney. What do you want him to do? Would you rather he sends 6 players after the quarterback and just tells everybody else to play man? Because they're going to get beat for big plays then. So I don't know what people wanted to do. I think that the defense specifically is just so barren of talent from top to bottom that there's just nobody really that shows up and is consistently a dominant force on the defensive side of the football. It's just not what they do. They're just not good at that. And that is what just demolishes me here, where I don't know who to fault more or how often to fault anybody. We're about to look at the chat. I know that a lot of y'all are saying a lot of things, so we're going to look at the chat. But first, a quick word from Underdog Fantasy, because this bonus episode of Locked On Gators is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy, which is the easiest place to spice up the college football season. It's easy to play and win cold, hard cash, and I know that I make money pretty much every week off of it. I usually just put like one big thing together, one big group together of like 3 or 4 players. John Race Plumlee is usually the guy that just shoulders the load for me. This week I did have Justin Shorter yards, which was set at I think 53.5, which he went over, of course. So I'm living it up a little bit. I'm living it up a little bit. Sign up with the promo code Locked On, and Underdog will double your first deposit up to $100. Deposit $100 and get another $100 free. Now it's time we're going to talk about the chat. I see a lot of you guys are starting to talk a bit more too, so that's really fun. We got Josh Gardner. Hey, Josh. Man, oh man, this game left a lot to be decided from the defensive scheme. I'll agree with you for this game. At the very least, I think we could agree on this one, just because of how often it was. I tweeted it out where there was the Jayden Daniels, I believe this is the final touchdown run that he had, where he came out, they were on the right hash. LSU had 3 receivers and a tight end all on the right side. Running back was to the left of Jayden Daniels. And while I was watching this game with people, I audibly said, this is going to be a touchdown. They ran split zone read, which hurts because if you've listened to the show for a year or so, you know I love split zone read. Split zone read is basically a read option where the tight end is on the side opposite the running back. So running back's on the left side, tight end's on the right side. It's a read option. And then the tight end is coming behind the offensive line to the left side of the field, and they're used as a lead blocker if the quarterback keeps the ball. They ran that, and it was a touchdown. And I saw it coming, and it says, how do you not see it coming if you're Patrick Toney? You paid $1 million. How do you not see that coming to you where I could see it? Like you get that point where I'm like, that just makes no sense. Defensive play calling today wasn't good. It wasn't. I think that the game plan to stop Jayden Daniels sucked. I think it was a bad game plan. And I could comfortably say that because, again, I have not lost faith in Patrick Toney, haven't even hindered it that much. But I can say game plan wasn't great. I think that the execution was horrible, but I also think the game plan wasn't good going into this one. Um, LJS Gaming, will this affect recruiting? Yes and no. I think a horrible showing could affect recruiting in the sense of maybe someone goes, you know what, this isn't the defense I want to play on. This isn't the offense I want to play on. But I also think that if you're a defensive recruit and you're watching this game, especially if you're one of the ones there, you get to see the atmosphere of the swamp when it got kind of quiet and then it got really live again once Florida started coming back. And you see the atmosphere, and then you also see that it's oftentimes the execution that sucks on this defense. You see a path to playing time early on. You see true freshman Shamar James. You see true freshman Devin Moore. I mean, not today, but you see true freshman Devin Moore. You see true freshman Kamari Wilson. You see true freshman Chris McClellan. You see true sophomore or redshirt freshman Desmond Watson. You see all these young guys playing. And I think that you can go, there's a path to playing on this team next year or in 2024 or in 2025, because that's the 3 years I think that were represented today. So I think you can look at this defense and you can go, I can get on the field. I can help this defense. So I think it helps, and the offense as well. I think it helps and hurts. I think there's a trade-off, but I think it's pretty much a zero-sum game there. I don't think you win more or lose more by a showing like this, because I think that there are a lot of gamers out there who are just like, I can help, I can contribute, and that's what's important to me. And we'll turn this thing around as a unit. And so I think that I don't think it affects recruiting that much. Eli with an absolutely pathetic display of football. Yeah, it sucked, dude. It was just bad. Jordan Dargan, we needed a new defense. Remember, 2010 Auburn defense was horrible, but Cam Newton found ways to win. Yeah, but also, like, Jordan, you could say that, but Anthony Richardson isn't as good as Cam Newton. And even if you could say we need a new defense, like, Anthony Richardson isn't as good as Cam Newton was in 2010. And Billy Napier's not calling an option offense or a spread offense like the traditional way that you would think Gus Malzahn ran with Auburn. So it's really hard to look at that and say, we can do this, because I mean, there just isn't, it's not a good comparison, because Anthony Richardson is incredibly talented, incredibly gifted. He is not as good as Cam Newton. He is still an incredibly raw product. He's a block of coal that you got to get that diamond from. Simple as that. Celebrating roughing the passer, SMH. I'm assuming you're talking about, I forgot his first name, but Ward, the scumbag, number 5 on LSU. Yeah, dude, that dude sucks. Multiple penalties, the dirty play with hitting Anthony Richardson in the back of the knees when he was already throwing the ball. That was just a scumbag move. I hate that dude. He's just a piece of garbage. Josh said recruits know they're going to get play. Yeah. They saw something on tape to cause that. I don't know what I don't know what that was referring to. I'm assuming it was just something I was saying at the time, but I don't know what that was. Josh said playing 10 to 15 yards off, always going to let them get the ball. Yep, it was bad. And it's especially bad to play that far off when you suck at tackling. And that's kind of what Florida does. UF needs this 2023 recruiting class for defense. Hell yes, they do. And luckily, there's a lot of defenders coming in to add here. I'd like to add another linebacker to the defense for 2023, but I think Billy's going to play portal game there. And I think you could usually find some pretty solid linebackers in the portal. Eli, don't know why anyone's surprised. Gators defense been making QBs look great. Yeah, no, I said it earlier this week. I was like, Jaden Daniels sucks, so I'm fully prepared for him to look like a Heisman. And hey, look pretty damn good. Linebackers are freshmen, need experience. I mean, it's just Shamar. Ventrell's a 6-year guy. Amari Burney's a 5th-year guy. I don't remember seeing Scooby on the field much. I don't remember seeing Derek Wingo on the field. I don't remember seeing DeJuan Black, I don't think played. So, I mean, it was just Shamar as the only freshman. But even then, he was not the biggest weak spot on this defense tonight. And it's as simple as that. D-line needs an upgrade desperately, Alex. The D-line desperately needs an upgrade. Josh, softer than whipped egg white. Yeah. Soft as hell is all you can say. Secondary needs an upgrade too. They do. I think that one could also, you could just say like, hey, younger guys need to play more. And younger guys need to get up to speed, and then we can watch them kind of grow and develop and become better. You could certainly say either way. Sharman's soft defense. Time to start playing lower classmen. I mean, they are like younger classmen are playing. Like the freshmen, Devin Moore plays. Kamari Wilson plays. I don't remember seeing Miguel Mitchell out there, but he's played the past 2 games. They've played. There's just not a ton, but they've played. Defense is soft just Sunday morning church music. I don't believe Tony should be fired or Billy, but this roster needs to be upgraded. It desperately needs to be upgraded. Jason Marshall, 5-star bust. I'm not saying that's my thing. I'm not saying Jason Marshall is a 5-star bust. I'm not saying he's bad. I'm just saying that Florida Gators fans have this this thought of him in their heads as if he's Vernon Hargreaves, and Vernon Hargreaves was a Gator, or they have these thoughts that Jason Marshall is this incredible player because he's a 5-star and because media loves him. He's good. He's just not nearly as good as media and Gators fans like to make him seem. And it's as simple as that. I swear Tony went to the Mike Smith School of Defensive Coordinating. I know which school of defensive coordinating he went to. But hey, it is what it is. Sorry, I need a drink for a second. To fire Billy would be $7.2 million per year for 7 years, and Tony is well over $6.5 million. I don't know that. Jay, I think it's just people being dramatic. Florida fans, they have the knee-jerk reaction of just being incredibly mad and incredibly to the extreme of either being incredibly happy or incredibly sad. They're not getting fired. I promise you. Unless Billy loses every game for the remainder of the year and they're all bad losses, they're fine. They'll be here. I've been seeing fans say it is because a lot of fans are stupid. It's stupid sometimes. Billy should know this is unacceptable. He does. He knows. Don't get it. Like, he knows. This coaching staff is working with the players they have. There's a roster needs a makeover that they desperately need a makeover. And yeah, the players they have suck. Like, I don't get it why so many Florida Gators fans are like, oh, execution needs to be better. Execution this, execution that. Coaching staff, you've got enough talent to do these things. The biggest complaint people had about Dan Mullen was his recruiting sucked. And then you're just going to come out and be like, oh, no, like Billy needs to capitalize more with the talent that he has. If he has so much talent, Dan Mullen would still have a job in Gainesville. He doesn't because he didn't do a good job of recruiting. I said this in the Lockdown Gators Discord, which, by the way, description down below. Dan Mullen recruited just for a high recruiting class. He didn't evaluate these kids. He didn't. He looked at their ranking and he was like, hey, do you want to come to Gainesville? Sweet. And that was it. Billy Napier, I can promise you, writes full-length scouting reports on kids. He puts in the work. He's working his ASS off for them. And he's going to get it right. He will. Jeff Collins coming back to be our DC. We never got Pearsall into the game. I mean, Pearsall was in the game. He just wasn't involved in the game. Montrell played great to me. He did. ETN got mauled by the Tigers today. I feel we went away from the run too early. I agree. Oh, just skipped a whole bunch of it. Dang, there's a lot of messages in here. I agree. We can't blame the coaches too much. The new guys on this roster are playing hard. I'm loving that. The roster needs to be turned over. I thought Florida fired Toad Grantham. It's a very young team. Yeah, we'll see a young team next season too. Patrick Toney is getting paid $1 million to consistently show poor defensive schemes and play execution. Again, I don't think it's a scheme. I do think they do a lot better of getting these guys to execute the scheme properly. Maybe dumb it down a little bit. Be like, hey, we're not going to try all the creative creepers. We'll switch it up. Maybe just like fire 3 creepers, fire 2 creepers, stuff like that. And we'll kind of change it up. Maybe make it easier. And, if you practice enough, Bruce Lee had the quote where it's like, I don't fear the man who practiced 1,000 kicks one time. I fear the man who practiced 1 kick 1,000 times. Maybe do that with the Florida Gators defense. That might help a little bit. Let's look at the future, though. I'm pissed at this defense, but the future is incredibly bright in Gainesville. No way about that. We're very bottom in the SEC. I mean, they're still Vanderbilt, but pretty low. Is it naive of me to say that this loss doesn't faze me as a UF fan? It was never about the season, but going forward, So James, that's where I also kind of run into this, and I was planning on talking about this on Monday's show, but I'll touch it here now. I don't, and I was texting Dylan Sanders, who's an LSU reporter, but I was like, I don't necessarily care about the win or the loss. I care about how crappy they looked out there. That's my issue. I don't care win or loss because this season did not have high expectations. I care about how bad they looked and how bad they've looked at times this season. That's been my issue. I see doom and gloom always. It's the seventh game, and it seems like there's been no improvements on defense. There have been improvements. It's just like I think one thing that this coaching staff has done incredibly well since the start of the season is figuring out better ways to rotate players in and out. Where first couple games got gashed in the second half. This time they got gashed throughout the whole game, but it wasn't because being gassed; it was just being bad. I trust Napier and company absolutely having serious problems covering wide receivers. Not looking forward to the next week. Got Georgia on my mind. Well, 2 weeks, but yeah, it's gonna suck. Jay, you mean not next week? Okay, yes. I don't trust Patrick Toney. That's fair. That's fair. That's the thing. I trust Patrick Toney because I spent a lot of time studying his defense and his career and what he likes to do. So I like what I saw. But if you're a Gators fan that's only experience with him and only exposure to him is what we've seen so far this year, I don't fault you for not being confident in him. Like you're totally fine doing that. You have every right to do so. The defensive players don't have firemen. They don't. FSU, South Carolina, Georgia, all losses. We'll see. I mean, it's also just so hard to say that far out. Like FSU is the last game of the season in the regular season. No idea who's going to be healthy there or anything like that. But we'll see. It doesn't matter whether it's man or zone. These players that we have aren't good. Very true. Don't forget Texas A&M. We'll see. I think we can beat South Carolina, Vandy. I think Florida beats Florida State. That's just I don't know what it is. Florida State always underperforms against the Gators. No other way. No leader on this team other than 51. Yeah. You could say that. I don't share everything I hear, but I hear some things about what other players are doing, and it's like, okay, Billy can sell this. We need players. It's that simple. Yeah. Time to put the AR and Dexter to NFL talk to bed. I think Dexter still goes because I think what Javon Dexter put on tape last year was incredible. He just didn't do it consistently enough. Where I think he's got a slightly different responsibility this year, where I think an NFL team can go, hey, if we play you as the 3 tech and a 4-3, could you still do that? Like, could you do what you did in 2021? And I think he could do that. But I think if they're like, hey, can you be a 3 to 5 tech in this 3-4, I think the answer is no, he can't do it. It's bad when Ventrell Muller was the only person yelling at the defense. Yep. We're not winning another game this year. Okay, Q, come on, settle down. Gators 4-7. Calm down. I think the coaches skip to the bottom. I think the coaches were getting pissed. Billy didn't look happy. Billy should be pissed. The coaches should be pissed. Be better. I'm going to wrap this up. I'm going to start burning through these questions because I don't want to go over half an hour, and we're at 28 minutes right now. So I'll burn through these, but just know I'm reading every one of them. Made Bandy defense. I mean, you can't talk about last year. Play as if Grantham was DC, inspired to give up 3rd and long, start uninspired, mistyped. Not a teachable defense, and these coaches should have seen by now who wants to play and who tries to keep making. No, Trey Dean should sit down. Patrick Tony's in over his head. He runs a soft zone defense. I don't think he wants to. I think he kind of has to. And I think against LSU, you kind of should. Those new D-line recruits are going to all start next season. Still have Mullen and Grantham players on the field, and it really shows. We'll give it 4 years to get. I think give it 2 years, and you look at a completely different defense or a completely different roster. I guess this defense is what it is. Hopefully, make them milk the clock and run the ball. Hopefully, trading me 15 yards downfield, but it's Mr. QB. It's more the defensive players and the coaches. Yep, pocket passers dominates football. We need to start recruiting pocket passers, not scramblers. That's just not true. You could have a scrambler and an athlete, but you need to be able to throw the football in the pocket. 7 games in the season, defense still looks confused pre-snap. Constantly saw the creeper being late to his spot and it being exploited. Yeah, kind of. It's like the players, and you could also kind of tell when certain people are like when Prince Leo and Maylene, he would line up standing up often, and it's like, well, okay, he's dropping back into coverage. Not often, but often when he drops back into coverage, he stands up when he does it. Like he's just stand up every play then, and then you can't tell. Pocket passers dominate football. I saw that already, unless that came up again. It's like the players on the field don't have any pride because they don't. Just Tony quizzes players on defense during the defense meetings. Does he work on situations? Even if he does, they probably fail. Our entire defense would be bench warmers on any other SEC team. No moral victories, but at least we didn't get blown out. 42-22 could be bad. We did at least make it a game at the end. True. Yeah, I mean, you got to buy into it. I'm going to end this right here, but thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in. Thank you for helping Locked On Gators grow the way it has. I just elbowed something I wasn't supposed to elbow. Thank you for making Locked On Gators something that I did not think it would be this quick. Join the Locked On Gators Discord in the comments below. Yeah, Alex, we'll talk about it. Yeah, it sucked. But yeah, we'll talk about it. But thank you so much for turning Locked On Gators into what it has been, and I'm very excited to see what it will become. Thank you so much. Check out the Locked On Gators Discord again in the description below. Hopefully, you can still turn your. I mean, okay, sorry. Does Florida defense look like it has like $1 million DC? It actually has two. Both co-defensive coordinators make $1 million this year. Feel a bit better at 5:30 a.m. Yeah, just stick it up. Come on, give Josh a round of applause because Josh is over in Spain right now and he's here. So thank you so much, Josh. Love you, buddy. New sub just found you. Thank you for subscribing. Tell your friends if you want to tell your friends. Subscribe if you want to subscribe. Like it, share it, do whatever you want to do. I'm not going to put pressure on you. I'm just going to say thank you so much for tuning in. It's 11:30 p.m. now. Try to have a good rest of your night. If not, hopefully a good tomorrow. Hopefully you make some money. Jay from Ireland. What's good, Jay? Ireland represent. I'm Irish partially, but it is what it is. But thank you so much, everybody. Hope you have a fantastic night. Stay safe no matter what you do. Have fun. And Locked On Gators, by the way, while there's still 47 of you, Tuesday, Joe Hayden joining the show. So yeah, Tuesday's episode of Locked On Gators will be with Joe Hayden. Florida Gators great. It was incredible. I had to tell him before we recorded, and I'll tell you guys this while we're here. So I recorded with Joe Hayden already. And before we recorded, I was just like, Joe, I'm letting you know I'm incredibly nervous, and he was super cool and super fun. So thank you all for tuning in. Ethan, all right, you can fight me, big dog. You can fight me, Ethan. Thank you so much. Have a fantastic night. Have a great night. Love you. And yeah, go Gators.